and we talked about how social media will continue to play an influence in media and in our lives generally. And, two huge things have happened. Well, one for New Zealand, obviously the earthquake, but also the role that social media is playing in the Middle East in fomenting and stimulating and facilitating this incredible uprising, this democratic uprising from, sort of seemingly out of nowhere. And I was reflecting on the other day with someone on the ability of Facebook and Twitter to do what George Bush failed to do with his violent, intervention in Iraq and Afghanistan. Afghanistan, obviously, slightly different story, but the military intervention in Iraq has just created the worst situation, a much worse situation for the Iraqis.
Yeah.
And the idea of that original invasion was to give hope and courage and an environment where there could be a kind of a democratic uprising and people would take over the vacuum that the Americans created. But instead what happened, it just created more violence. And yet look what something simple as Twitter and Facebook have done across Egypt and across the Middle East. There was an interesting piece in the BBC talking about there's one site in particular, one Facebook page that's often been pointed back to as kind of the origins of this. It was a Facebook page created after a student, Khaled Saeed, was dragged out of an internet cafe and beaten to death by Egyptian security. He was under suspicion of sort of creating a anti-government protest on Facebook and through the internet, and so was identified. But instead of suppressing what happened, that quite quickly grew to 600,000 members and became a real rallying point for what we now, what we've just witnessed. And similarly in Tunisia, and then sort of has spread, right across the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. It's really been about the spread of knowledge, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, and I think courage as well. There's sort of a shared understanding that you're not the only one. There's a safety in numbers, isn't there? And the ability to communicate that very fast, organise themselves very fast, and before networks can be shut down. And something like 80% of people in Egypt have mobile phones now. And so that's it's hard to control if you're the government.
And that safety in numbers also, I guess, applies to the situation in Christchurch and Canterbury as well, where people have been saying that the support they've been able to find on social networks like Twitter and Facebook has been enormous, and also that ability to get the word out that you're okay as well.
Yes. Well, have you visited the Google Person Finder? There's something like 9,000 records on there already of, people. It's a very simple proposition. On the left-hand side, it's are you looking for someone? And on the right-hand side is, do you have information about someone?
Yeah. And
so it's a very efficient way of trying to hook up people who are, separated by distance or by rubble, or when the phone networks are down, something like that can work. Now, there's some amazing stories that are coming out of the earthquake. A Japanese boy who was trapped in the CTV building was able to email his parents in Japan, giving them an update on his location and the people around him, and that has been relayed back to rescuers who are able to kind of dig them out. And there's so many of these stories. A family in Kaiapoi who couldn't find their father. Their brother in San Francisco tweeted to say, "I'm looking for my dad. He lives in such and such a place." And someone went down the road and found him and took him home. And there just must be hundreds of these stories happening now, where people are connected, all around the world by such a simple thing as, and actually something as, what we all thought was something as silly as Twitter.
Well, yeah, initially, didn't we? Yeah, but it's become such an integral tool for people, but also for authorities as well. I mean, it cannot be stressed enough the importance that the authorities are now placing on it to get out really official information.
Yes. Yeah, I was really impressed with the Earthquake Commission has set up a page, EQNZ. .co.nz and similarly on the Twitter is #EQNZ. They just run the Twitter stream on there and use it also for updating the latest geostats from GeoNet that they have. I think there's been a bit of a turn, even just in the last 6 months, in the way that government and official organisations think about using social media, that actually just publishing databases and raw data is actually a real service to the public, and let the public mash it up and do things with it.
Absolutely agree. Vincent, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure, Wamo, and our hearts go to all our friends and family. I'm sure that you've got plenty there. Yeah,
absolutely. And thoughts with everyone at the moment. Thanks, Vincent. Cheers.
Thanks.
Vincent Heeringa there. Here's Lupus Luna. This is called Rabbit on the Moon.